Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen wa salatu wa salam ala Imam al-Anbiya wal Mursaleen Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa ansarihi wa azwajihi wa dhurriyatihi ajma'in. Amma ba'd, beloved brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to this another of our sittings. Today we shall be continuing with the Tafseer of Surah Al-Ankabut, and we hope that this will be the last segment of the Tafseer. We hope that we will be able to cover a different topic tomorrow, inshallah ta'ala. And please look out for the topic. The admins will announce the topic. The last time we were here, we stopped at ayah 56, in which Allah Ta'ala said, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يا عبادي الذين آمنوا إن أرضي واسعة فإياي فاعبدون. O my servants, my earth is spacious, my ard is spacious, it is vast, therefore worship me and me alone. So this is talking about Hijrah, migrating from Dar al-Harb, the land of the enemy, to another land where your deen is protected and your honor is protected. It is not permissible to live in Dar al-Harb if you have a country to make Hijrah to. Dar al-Harb is countries like Europe and America where they have declared a war on Islam. There are three Dars. You have Dar al-Harb, the land of the enemy, like Europe and America. Then you have Dar al-Kufr. Dar al-Kufr is a land which is a Kafir country, but they haven't declared open war on Islam and Muslims. They do not arrest you and keep you in prison for a decade with no charge like they do in Europe and America. That is Dar al-Kufr. An example of that is Abyssinia, Ethiopia, in the time of the Prophet. It was Dar al-Kufr. It's a Christian kingdom, but they didn't arrest and kill Muslims like they do in Europe and America. Dar al-Harb is the land of the enemy. An example of Dar al-Harb was Mecca in the time of the Prophet, in the time of Abu Jahl. During the reign of terror of Abu Jahl, Mecca was Dar al-Harb, a land where the Muslims are being oppressed. Then you have Dar al-Kufr, and the third is Dar al-Islam. Medina was Dar al-Islam. So in the time of the Prophet, you had Dar al-Harb, Mecca, Dar al-Kufr, Ethiopia, Dar al-Islam, Medina. The three Dars existed in the time of the Prophet. Today, we are living at a time in which the three Dars are about to exist. Dar al-Islam, for example, Timbuktu in Mali, that has declared Sharia recently. That is Dar al-Islam. That's an example of Dar al-Islam. 10% of Yemen has been conquered by the Mujahideen. That 10% is Dar al-Islam, where Sharia is being implemented in Yemen. Then you have Dar al-Harb. Dar al-Harb is like Saudi Arabia, Pakistan and Saudi Arabia. Pakistan and Saudi Arabia, these two countries are Dar al-Harb. They have taken sides with the white man, George Bush, when he declared a crusade against Islam and Muslims, and allowed him land space, airspace. They provided him with land space and airspace to conquer Iraq, to conquer Afghanistan, and thousands of Muslim girls were brutally raped by the army of the Dajjal when these two countries were conquered. The Holy Quran was desecrated, burnt. Muslim women were raped, and they continue to be raped. The Masajid, the house of Allah, was desecrated. The Quran was reviled. Muslim women were raped. The Quran was burnt. These countries are the most excellent examples of Dar al-Harb, Pakistan and KSA, because they helped the kuffar in crushing Islam and Muslims. And if you don't believe that they are Dar al-Harb, you yourself become a kafir. If you don't believe that Pakistan and KSA, these two countries are Dar Harb, you yourself become a kafir, and this concept is called chain takfir. When you support a taghut, you become a taghut yourself. When you support a kafir, you become a kafir yourself. When you support a murtad, you become a murtad yourself. Murtad means an apostate. When you support a zindiq, you become a zindiq yourself. When you support a munafiq, a hypocrite, you become a hypocrite yourself. And this concept is called chain takfir. Chain takfir is a principle of takfir, and you are not allowed to think that a person is an extremist because of chain takfir. Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, when he wrote What Makes You a Kafir, he said those who refuse to make takfir and the kuffar, they become kuffar themselves. Or those who believe that their aqidah is right, their deen is right, their manhaj is right, you become a kafir yourself. So if you read the books of the classical scholars, you'll find in it the concept of chain takfir. An idiot called Salman Rushdie wrote a book, Satanic Verses. If you don't make takfir on Salman Rushdie, you become a kafir yourself. This principle is called chain takfir. When you refuse to call a kafir kafir, you become a kafir yourself. Why? Because you did not judge by what Allah has revealed. Why you become a kafir when you do not make takfir on kuffar? Because you refuse to judge by what Allah has revealed. So when you read the books of the classical scholars, you'll see that the principle of chain takfir was made mention of in their books. Refusal to call a kafir kafir makes you a kafir yourself. The reason why Allah Ta'ala said, my land is spacious, so worship me alone, is because you are not allowed to stay in Dar Harb and stop praying and fasting and making Hajj and then tell Allah on Judgment Day, the country I was living in didn't allow me to practice the 5 pillars of Islam. Do not use that as an argument when you stand in front of Allah on Judgment Day. Because Allah said in Surah Nisa, verse 97, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ تَوَفَّهُمْ مَلَائِكَ ظَالِمِي أَنفُسِهِمْ قَالُوا فِيمَا كُنْتُمْ قَالُوا كُنَّا مُسْتَضْعَفِينَ فِي الْأَرْضِ. Those who the angels snatch their souls at the time of their death, the angels will say to them, why is your situation so pitiful, appalling, and pathetic? They will say to the angels, we were weak and oppressed in the land. We were mustada'afin. The angels will say to them, wasn't Allah's earth spacious enough for you to migrate, to immigrate? Your condition is pitiful, appalling, and pathetic. And you are telling me that you were mustada'afin. Some of you belong to the madhab of the wife of Prophet Lut. The wife of Prophet Lut, she refused to migrate because her heart was connected to the luxury of the city. So the angels who passed by Abraham, they said to Abraham, we have 2 news for you. One is a good news, one is bad news. The good news, your wife will get pregnant after many, many years of being barren, and her child will be called Ishaq. And the bad news is that we are going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah, the city in Palestine in which people become homosexuals. He said, my nephew is living there. How can he destroy the city? My nephew is there. Lut is there. He said, they said to him, don't worry about Lut because we know more about him than you. His family will be saved except his wife, who will refuse to leave the city. So some people, they cannot make hijrah because they belong to the madhab of the wife of Prophet Lut. I am in Dar al-Harb and I have food in my belly, a roof over my head. I get welfare, I get food stamps. Or I have a good job, I'm at the peak of my career. So even though the kuffar are humiliating the Muslims, I'm sorry I cannot migrate. They belong to the madhab of the wife of Prophet Lut. And these kuffar are so desperate to fill their prisons with Muslims, they use the technique of entrapment. Entrapment means they send a black man or a Pakistani or an Arab to the masjid and they say, I would like to bomb a particular building. Do you know how to build a bomb? I would like to go to Yemen to join the Mujahideen. Do you know the passage? And he has a pen in his pocket, and the pen is a recording device, and you don't know that it's a recording device. And then you say, yes, I know how to build a bomb. I download from the internet how to build a bomb. You want us to build a bomb? I don't mind, let's bomb such and such a place. Yes, I know how to go to Yemen. I know how to smuggle you into Yemen for you to do jihad, to join Al-Shabaab. And then the person deliver the recording to the FBI, and then they arrest you and give you 20 years. It's called entrapment. So the kuffar said the only way we can get the fundamentalists off the street behind bars so that they cannot join the front line is entrapment. So be careful of people who ask you incriminating question. Anybody who asks you an incriminating question is working for the FBI, the MI5, or the CIA, or the Homeland Security. Be careful of those who ask you incriminating questions. It's called entrapment. So the kuffar who are living in Dar Harb are so desperate to fill their prisons with potential mujahideen, they call you a potential mujahid. Is they use the technique of entrapment. You aren't allowed in Dar Harb to collect money for your starving brothers and sisters. If you collect money for your starving brothers and sisters, they say you are supporting Al-Qaeda. And the kuffar are very quick to use the word Al-Qaeda. For them, everything is Al-Qaeda. Because they think if they use the word Al-Qaeda, they will get the population to rally behind them with their draconian laws. A kafir is an opportunist. Every hypocrite is a kafir, and every kafir is a hypocrite. They think if they use the word terrorism, Homeland Security, Al-Qaeda, then the population will rally behind them. And the population will not demonstrate against them with their tyranny and oppression against the Muslim population. That's why the kuffar use the word terrorism and Al-Qaeda, because they are opportunists. Every kafir is a hypocrite, and every hypocrite is a kafir. So Allah Ta'ala told you to make hijrah. Don't stay in Dar Harb and apostate and use it as an argument when you stand in front of me on Judgment Day, because my earth is spacious. Then Allah Ta'ala said, every soul shall taste death. كل نفس ذائقة الموت ثم إلينا ترجعون. Every soul shall taste death. And this ayah is similar to the ayah, Surah 39. Surah 39 verse 30, where Allah said, you Muhammad shall die, and every single one of your sahabas will die with you. There are people who want to give Muhammad the attribute of being the ever-living. But on many occasions Allah told you every soul shall taste death. Surah 3, 185. This ayah is similar to Surah 3, 185 or Surah Zumar verse 30. You Muhammad shall die, and all your sahabas will die with you. There are people who believe that Muhammad is ever living, he's alive in the grave. Surah 3, 185. كل نفس ذائقة الموت. Every soul shall taste death, and only on the day of resurrection shall you be paid your wages in full. The Barelwis, they want to give Muhammad the attribute of being the ever-living. They say he is alive in the grave and he is fully aware with the happenings of the Ummah. Only Allah is Al-Hayy. Allah said in Ayatul Kursi, Baqarah 255, Allahu la ilaha illahu Al-Hayy Al-Qayyum. He is Allah, there is no other God except Him. He is Al-Hayy, the ever-living, Al-Qayyum, the sustaining. There are people who want to give Muhammad the attribute of being Al-Hayy, the ever-living. So because they want to give Muhammad the attribute Al-Hayy, the ever-living, he's alive in the grave, and we can pray to him and ask him for shafa'ah, intercession, and anything else we want. because they are desperate to give Muhammad the attribute Al-Hayy, the ever-living, they went against the ijma of the Sahabas. What is the ijma of the Sahabas? Ijma means agreement. The ijma of the Sahabas says Muhammad is dead. Because Abu Bakr Siddiq said, people, those who worship Muhammad, Muhammad is dead. And those who worship Allah, Allah is alive and cannot die. Those who worship Muhammad, Muhammad is dead. And those who worship Allah, Allah is alive and cannot die. Abu Bakr made a statement, the Sahabas heard and they kept quiet. When the Sahabas kept quiet, it means this is the ijma of the Sahabas. So the brothers who say Muhammad is still alive in the grave, they went against the ijma of the Sahabas. The brothers went against the ijma of the Sahabas, the ijma of the Ummah. The Kufi Sufi went against the ijma of the Ummah because they don't believe that Allah is above the Arsh. The Madkhalis, the Salafis went against the ijma of the Ummah because they don't believe to dismantle the Sharia is major kufr, they claim it's minor. Even though Ibn Kathir and Ibn Taymiyyah said it is known of Islam by necessity that whenever you dismantle the Sharia, you're a kafir and you should be fought. Ibn Kathir mentioned the word fought. The Qadianis went against the ijma of the Ummah by claiming that Mirza Ghulam Ahmad is a prophet after Muhammad. You tell me the name of the deviant group and I will tell you which ijma they went against. All the lowlifes scums of the earth and hypocrites are guilty of going against the ijma of the Ummah. And Allah told you, if you go against the ijma of the Ummah, your destiny is in hellfire to abide forever. Surah Nisa 115. When you study Usul al-Fiqh, Surah Nisa 115. This ayah tells you, the moment you go against the ijma of the Ummah, your destiny is in hellfire to abide forever. Tell me the name of the deviant group and I'll tell you which ijma they went against. All the lowlifes come to the earth and hypocrites and the zindiq, the zanadiqa are guilty of going against one ijma. The Shiite went against the ijma of the Ummah by claiming the Quran is corrupted. Allah said He's protecting it in Surah 15 verse 9. The Madkhalis went against the ijma of the Ummah by claiming to dismantle the Sharia is a minor kufr. Even though Ibn Kathir and Ibn Taymiyyah said it is known of Islam by necessity that it's a major kufr. The Qadianis went against the ijma of the Ummah by claiming that Mirza Ghulam Ahmad is a prophet after Muhammad. A'udhu Billah. The Brahmins went against the ijma of the Ummah by claiming Muhammad is still alive in the grave. Even though Abu Bakr said those who worship Muhammad, Muhammad is dead, and those who worship Allah, Allah is alive and cannot die. We can pray to Muhammad and beg him for what we want because he's still alive in the grave. They went against the Quran where Allah said, you Muhammad will die and all your Sahabas will die. Surah 39 verse 30. Innaka mayyit wa innahum mayyitun. You Muhammad will die and all your Sahabas will die with you. Every single one of them. Kullu nafsin dha'ikatul maut. Every soul will taste death. Surah Al-Ankabut verse 57. Surah Al-Ankabut verse 57. Every soul will taste death. Or Surah 3 185. The Kufi Sufi went against the ijma of the Ummah by claiming the shady Shiites, the Madkhalis, the Kufi Sufi. The Kufi Sufi went against the ijma of the Ummah by claiming Allah is everywhere. They don't believe Allah is above the Arsh, even though Imam Malik said to believe that Allah is above the Arsh is wajib. And to ask about it, it is a bid'ah. Tell me the name of the deviant group and I'll tell you how they went against the ijma of the Ummah. All the hypocrites and low-life scums of the earth are guilty of going against the ijma of the Muslims, even though Allah warned them in Surah Nisa 115, those who go against the ijma of the Muslims, their destiny shall be the hellfire to abide forever. And those who believe in the oneness of Allah, Islamic monotheism, and do righteous good deeds, to them we shall surely give lofty dwellings in paradise, underneath which rivers flow, to live there in forever. Excellent is the reward for the workers. So, Ayah 58, Allah Ta'ala said, those who believe and do righteous deeds, they will have their reward with their Lord. They will have houses in paradise. The houses that they will have in paradise, the Prophet said, when you are taken to your house in paradise for the very first time, you shall be able to recognize your house in paradise the way you are able to recognize your house in the dunya. And when the Rasul was taken to Al-Isra wal-Miraj, he saw a mansion in paradise, a palace in paradise. He asked, the Prophet asked Gabriel, whose house is that? Gabriel said, that house belonged to Umar ibn al-Khattab. Narrated by Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, Allah's Apostle said, by him in whose hand Muhammad's soul is, every one of them will know his dwelling in paradise better than he knew his dwelling in the dunya. Sahih Bukhari. So you shall be able to recognize your dwelling in paradise better than your house in the dunya, even though you will be introduced to your house in paradise for the very first time. There, Allah Ta'ala told you that when you enter paradise, it is forever. You will abide forever. Allah said, Abada. You will abide in paradise forever. Khalidina fiha. Khalidina fiha abada. Surah 98. So, if Allah is telling you that when you enter paradise, you'll be there forever, this means Adam was in heaven, not paradise. Adam was in heaven, not paradise. I did not know that there was a difference between destiny and predestination until I went to university. Destiny can be changed with your dua, but predestination cannot be changed. I did not know that there was a difference between Tawbah and Istighfar until I went to university. Tawbah is when you seek forgiveness from big sins like zina and khamar. Istighfar is when you seek forgiveness from small sins. I did not know that there was a difference between heaven and paradise until I went to university. And the Shaykh who told me there was a difference was Abdul Aziz Shahwan. Heaven, if you enter, you can be flung out the way Adam and Eve were thrown out. Paradise, if you enter, you shall abide therein forever and ever. So you use these words interchangeably, and you did not know there's a difference between them. There's a difference also between a prophet and a messenger. A prophet has no book, a messenger has a book, a Sharia. Abraham was a messenger, but Lut was a prophet. Abraham had a book, Lut had no book. David was a messenger. And Yunus, who was in the belly of the whale, was a prophet, because Yunus had no book. And the greatest messengers to walk earth were 5. I will arrange them according to their age when they lived on earth: Noah, Abraham, Moses, Jesus, Muhammad. These are the 5 greatest messengers to walk earth. The greatest was Muhammad, and who came second after Muhammad? Who comes second after Muhammad in greatness? Ibrahim alayhi salam. And there is no difference of opinion among the scholars that Ibrahim comes second in greatness after Muhammad. Because when we pray, what do we say? Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama sallaita ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka hamidun majid. Allahumma barik ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama barakta ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka hamidun majid. You mention Abraham, his name, beside the name of Muhammad 5 times a day, every day. In Fajr, in Dhuhr, in Asr, in Maghrib, and in Isha. We debated a Parvezi recently. A Parvezi is a man who believes in Quran but not the Sunnah. They call them the Sunnah rejectors. The followers of Ghulam Parvez, a retard from India. A retard from India started the Parvezi movement. They are called the Sunnah rejectors. This person got upset in the debate and ran away. You know how he was checkmated. You believe in Quran but not the Sunnah. Show us in the Holy Quran where Allah said Fajr has 2 rakah and Dhuhr has 2 rakah. Sorry, Dhuhr has 4 rakah and Asr has 4 rakah. Maghrib has 3 rakah and Isha has 4 rak'ah. Show us from the Quran where Allah told you how many rak'ah are contained in each salah. Fajr 2, Dhuhr 4, Asr 4, Maghrib 3, and Isha 4. Bring us a Quranic verse that tells you how many rak'ah are inside of each salah. He couldn't bring the Quranic verse, so we say then, maybe you don't pray. Because when you pray, you are following Sunnah. If you pray, you are following Sunnah. Because it is the Sunnah that tells you Fajr has 2 rak'ah and Dhuhr has 4 rak'ah. Asr 4, Maghrib 3, and Isha 4. The person got very, very upset and left the debate, and he was practicing name calling, insulting some of the admins. Hadith rejectors, Sunnah rejectors. You are liars, you don't believe in anything. You don't believe in neither Quran nor Sunnah. Because in the Quran, in Surah 3, verse 31, Allah said, قُلْ إِن كُنْتُمْ تُحِبُّونَ اللَّهَ فَاتَّبِعُونِي. Tell the people, O Muhammad, if you love Allah, then follow me, Muhammad. You were commanded by Allah to follow Muhammad in the Quran, Surah 3, verse 31. قُلْ إِن كُنْتُمْ تُحِبُّونَ اللَّهَ فَاتَّبِعُونِي. Say to the people, O Muhammad, if you love Allah, then follow me, Muhammad. يَحْبِبْكُمُ اللَّهُ وَيَغْفِرْ لَكُمْ ذُنُوبَكُمْ. Allah will also love you and forgive you of all your sins. The same admin who's taking notes is bringing the Hujjah. Where are the other admins? The same person who's bringing the Hujjah is taking the notes. Where are the other admins? I'm not happy with that. Okay, we continue the dars. The same person taking the notes, doing the Hujjah, I'm very upset with that. I'm not happy with that. That's not acceptable. Okay, we continue our Tafseer. Who's doing notes? Okay, I apologize. I'm okay, I apologize. I was told 42 has connection issues. I didn't know 42 was doing notes. I was told 42 has connection issues. I didn't know 42 was doing notes. Okay, we continue our Tafseer. So Allah Ta'ala told you on numerous occasions in the Quran that everybody will die. And those who say Muhammad is alive in the grave, Muhammad is alive in the grave and he is fully aware with what is happening in the dunya, we refute you by saying your Aqidah is Zandaka, it's heresy, and it contradicts Bukhari. Because on Judgment Day, some people will come to drink from the lake fount, and the Prophet will look in their faces and he will recognize them. Just as they are about to drink, 2 angels will stop them from drinking. The Prophet will cry out, "My people, my Sahabas, my Sahabas." The 2 angels will say to the Prophet, "You don't know what they did after you left. They apostated from Islam. They became murtaddeen, apostates from Islam." If the Prophet was alive in the grave and he can tell what is happening to his ummah, why the 2 angels will say to him, "You don't know what they did after you left. They turned back on their heels as apostates from Islam." This hadith in Bukhari is called the knockout punch for a Barelvi. What do we call the hadith? A knockout punch for a Barelvi. And it's very, very important that you learn how to refute. Because if you can't refute, you are going to join the deviants. It's very important that you learn how to refute, because if you can't refute, the shaitan will tell you to join the deviants, the zanadiqa. Zindiq is a heretic. Zanadiqa is the plural. Those who are patient and put their trust in their Lord. So the paradise is for those who are patient. Allah told you on many occasions, "Inna Allah ma'as-sabirin," verily Allah Ta'ala is with those who are patient. Surah 8:46. Inna Allah ma'as-sabirin. Verily Allah Ta'ala is with the patient. Obey Allah and obey His Messenger. Do not dispute with one another. Don't bicker with one another. Whether you are on the battlefield or not, don't bicker with one another. Wherever you are, don't fight with each other. Don't bicker. Don't argue. Don't dispute. Why? because your courage will depart and your strength will depart. Be patient because Allah is with the patient. Inna Allah ma'as-sabirin. Allah told you this on many occasions. Then Allah is telling you in Surah Al-Ankabut, verse 59, that those who will inherit the paradise are those who are patient. Patience means the thing is haram, but you abstain because it is haram. Some people like zina, khamr, and weed, but they abstain. Why? Because it is haram. Patience means the thing is difficult to do, but you do it because it is fard. To wake up for Fajr every morning is fard. But why do you wake up? Because it's fard. To fast in Ramadan is difficult. Why do you fast? Because it is fard. Ramadan is predicted to be July 21 this year. So that is sabr. The thing is difficult, but you do it because it is fard. That is sabr. The thing is enticing, but you abstain because it is haram. That is sabr. And only the sabreen can inherit the paradise. The Rasul said, As-sabr diya, patience is illumination. As-sabr diya, patience is illumination. And so many a moving, living creature carries not its own provision. Allah provides for it and for you, and He is the All-Hearer, the All-Knower. Ayah 60, Allah Ta'ala is Ar-Razak Al-Wahhab, the sustainer, the provider. Only Allah can provide for you. Therefore, do not call upon false deities and put your trust in false deities for them to provide. Allah is Ar-Razak Al-Wahhab. The animals that you have, they are the ones that you depend upon for your sustenance. The cows, the goats, the sheep, your cattle. But Allah said, I provide for them and I provide for you. Allah is the one and only provider. He is Ar-Razak Al-Wahhab. And if you were to ask them, who has created the heavens and the earth and subjugated the sun and the moon, they will surely reply, Allah. Now then, are they deviating the polytheist? وَلَئِن سَأَلْتَهُمْ مَنْ خَلَقَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَسَخَّرَ الشَّمْسَ وَالْقَمَرَ لَيَقُولُنَّ اللَّهُ فَأَنَّى يُؤْفَكُونَ. If you ask them, who is the one who created the heavens and the earth and subjugated the sun and the moon, they, the Kafirs of Makkah, will reply, Allah. This ayah is telling you that when you give dawah, you should use Tawheed al-Rububiyyah to establish Tawheed Ibadah. Since Allah Ta'ala is the only one who is the creator, only He alone deserves to be worshipped. Only He alone deserves the praise. Always use Tawheed Rububiyyah, that Allah is the only creator, to establish Tawheed Ibadah. That is the strategy used by Allah in the Quran. Not just in this ayah, also in Surah 31, verse 25. This ayah is telling you that when you give, take away the S, when you give dawah, you should use Tawheed Rububiyyah to establish Tawheed Ibadah. That is the hikmah of Allah. Always use Tawheed Rububiyyah to establish Tawheed Ibadah. Since Allah is the only creator, He alone deserves to be praised, deserves to be worshipped. Surah Luqman, verse 25. Now, this ayah, bring me back the ayah. Surah Al-Ankabut, verse 61. It's clear evidence that the Kafirs of Makkah, Abu Lahab, Abu Jahl, their Aqidah is better than the Aqidah of the Shiites. The Aqidah of Abu Lahab and Abu Jahl, their Aqidah is better than the Aqidah of the Shiites, even though they were pagans. Because if you ask them who is the creator of the heavens and the earth, they'll say Allah. If you ask them who subjugated the sun and the moon, they will say Allah. If you ask a Shiite about the sun and the moon, they'll tell you the sun, the moon, and the stars are subservient to our Imams. Even the atoms of the universe are subjugated by the Imams. So who has the better Aqidah? The Shiite are Abu Lahab and Abu Jahl. A Shiite will tell you to your face that the sun, the moon, and the stars are in the hands of our Shiite Imams. Why do you think a man left? Why do you think many Ayatollahs left the Shiite movement? Because of the shirk that they preach. A very famous Shiite author left the movement when he read their books. Because the Imams suffer from a God complex. There are three types of complexes: inferiority complex, superiority complex, and a God complex. The Shiite Imams, they suffer from a God complex. That's why they say the sun, the moon, and the stars are subservient to the Imams. Even the atoms of the universe are in the hands of the Imam. The spiritual status of the Imam is the universal divine vigilancy that is sometimes mentioned by the Imams, peace be upon them. It is a vigilancy pertaining to the whole of creation, A'udhu Billah, by virtue of which all the atoms in the universe humble themselves before the holder of authority, the Imams. What shirk? What shirk? It is one of the essential beliefs of our Shia school that no one can attain the spiritual status of the Imams, not even the cherubim or the prophets. So they elevated their Imams above all the prophets. This is what Imam Khomeini wrote in his book, The Islamic Revolution. So these Shiite Imams, they are suffering from a God complex. And the good thing that Saddam Hussein did in his lifetime was to crush Shiaism in Iraq. They wanted to turn Karbala into a place for pilgrimage and built a Kaaba there. Saddam Hussein crushed the Shiites in his lifetime. But when the Americans invaded Iraq and gave power to Shiites, then they started the Shiite movement in Iraq again. So Saddam Hussein did a good thing. He crushed the Shiite movement. It is a new religion, and it has nothing to do with Islam. And they are massacring children in Homs. I've seen it on YouTube. They use machete and cut off the heads of kids. I've seen the video on YouTube. And the Shiites in Iran support the Shiites in Syria because their hearts are alike. They are Shiites. They believe Ali is divine. Both of them believe Ali is divine. And both of them elevate Ali above the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Allah told you in Surah Al-Ankabut that if you ask the pagans of Mecca who is the creator of the heavens and the earth and who is the one who subjugated the sun and the moon, they will tell you Allah. This proves that the Aqidah of Abu Lahab and Abu Jahl was better than the Aqidah of the Shiites, because the Shiites will tell you our Imams subjugated the sun, the moon, and the stars, even the atoms of the universe are subjugated by our Imams. They are suffering from a God complex, the Shiite Imams. Allah enlarges the provision for them. Allah enlarges the provision for whom He wills of His slaves, and straightens it for whom He wills. Verily, Allah is the all-knowing, the all of everything. So Allah Ta'ala told you in Ayah 62, He gives provisions to whom He will, and He withholds provision from whom He will. Allah is the enricher. And Allah said in Surah 65 verses 2 to 3, Man yattaqillah yaj'al lahu makhrajan. If you fear Allah, He'll give you a breakthrough to come out of trouble and provide for you rizq from a source you could never expect it. What did Allah say? If you have taqwa, Man yattaqillah yaj'al lahu makhraj. He'll give you a makhraj, a breakthrough to come out of all your difficulties. And He will provide for you sustenance from a source you could have never imagined. Man yattaqillah yaj'al lahu makhraj wa yarzuqhu. Whosoever fears Allah Ta'ala, He'll give you the breakthrough, a makhraj. And then Allah Ta'ala will give you rizq from a source you could never expect. وَيَرْزُقُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبُ وَمَنْ يَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ فَهُوَ حَسْبُهُ. And whosoever puts his trust in Allah, then He will suffice him. The Prophet Muhammad said, if you put your trust in Allah, لَوْ أَنَّكُمْ تَتَوَكَّلُونَ عَلَى اللَّهِ حَقَّ تَوَكُّلِهِ. If you put your trust in Allah, He will provide for you the way He provides for the birds. They leave their homes with empty stomach, but they come back with their bellies full. They come back with a belly full, all the birds. So if you put your trust in Allah, He will provide for you the way He provides for the birds. Umar al-Khattab reported that the Messenger of Allah said, if you trust in Allah, observing a true trust in Him, then indeed He will give you provision as He provides the birds who emerge hungry in the morning and return with belly full in the evening. But when you put your trust in Allah, you have to strive. Don't sit at home and do not work and expect the food to drop from the sky. Because when Omar saw the man in the masjid and the man didn't work, Omar said, who feeds you and your wife and kids? The man said, my rich brother. He takes care of that. He feeds me and my wife and kids. Omar said, your rich brother is a better Muslim than you. Get out of the masjid, do not return, go back, get out of the masjid, go and work. Get out of the masjid, go and work, because manna and quail doesn't drop from the sky anymore. That was only for Bani Israel. Get out of the masjid because manna and quail doesn't drop down from the skies anymore. That was only for Bani Israel. Omar told the man, your rich brother is a better Muslim than you. So even though you put your trust in Allah, you should always work. Because when the man came to the masjid and said, O Messenger of Allah, should I let my camel go and put my trust in Allah? The Prophet said to the man, no. Tie your camel first, then put your trust in Allah. So even though we as Muslims, we put our trust in Allah, we have to do the reasons that will cause the success. It is called Al-Asbab. It is called what? Al-Asbab, the reasons. So to put your trust in Allah is not enough. You need to do the reasons that will cause you to achieve success. And these reasons are called Al-Asbab. Al-Akhd, Al-Amal bil-Asbab. And if you were to ask them who sends down rain from the sky and gives life therewith to the earth after its death, they will surely reply, Allah. Say, all praise and thanks are Allah's. Nay, most of them have no sense. So Allah Ta'ala said that the earth is dead when there is no rain coming down on the earth. Have you ever watched the National Geographic channel? They'll show you a huge desert in Australia, and they'll say to you there is no life in the desert. But when there is a huge shower of rain, grass comes back in the desert. It's no longer a desert, grass is there. You'll even have fishes in the rivers, rivers come, and you have a whole lot of birds migrate to that part of the land because it's no longer a desert, and the birds are singing happily, and they are flying from one tree to the next tree. You can't imagine. The same land that was lifeless. When there is a huge shower of rain, it's no longer a desert, it is full of life. I prefer to watch the National Geographic channel than to watch people. Because the National Geographic channel reminds me about the greatness of Allah. But for me to watch people, stand-up artists, cracking jokes, I can't do that. Some of you like to watch Chris Rock. I could never do that. It will make my iman go down. I prefer to watch the National Geographic channel and see the animals and see the landscape, to see the mountains, the rivers, the seas, the desert. The desert was dead, then it came back to life. The National Geographic channel, it gives me iman. But for me to sit and watch kuffar, I can't do that. it will make my iman go down. Because these kuffar are low life scums of the earth and fuel for the hellfire. How can I watch kuffar? When I was a teenager, every James Bond that came out, I used to go to the cinema to watch it. That was when I was a teenager. When you're a teenager, you're a fool. Will I watch a James Bond now? I can't. I've moved on in my life. I can't watch a James Bond now. As a teenager, me and my friends after the high school, we go and watch James Bond in the cinema in Jamaica. But I can't watch a James Bond film now. Because when you're a teenager, that's one stage in your life. Every 7 years in your life is one stage in your life. The first 7 years in the life of every child is the most important years. Every 7 years. The first 7 years in the life of a child. If your wife gives birth to a child, the first 7 years in the life of a child is very, very important. That's when you teach the child fiqh and tawheed. And if you teach the child tawheed at the age of 7, the child will never go astray. The first 7 years in the life of a child is so important. The Prophet said, teach your kids to pray when they are 7 and beat them to pray when they are 10 if they don't pray, and separate them in their beds. Because it is age 10, their hormones start to play games with them. And then the other 7 years is 14 years. And the other 7 years is 21 years. Every 7 years in your life is very, very important. But the most crucial years is the first 7 years. Every child psychologist will tell you that. And even the Prophet said, teach them to pray when they are 7. And beat them to pray when they are 10 if they don't pray, and separate them in their beds. The rain is from Allah. It's very unfortunate that the Prophet said, there are 4 things from Jahiliyyah my Ummah will never abandon. To look down upon the tribe of others and to brag about their tribe, to seek help from the rain, to seek rain from astrology, to use astrology to get the rain, and to wail over the dead. So, to seek rain from astrology is something my Ummah will never abandon. Abu Malik al-Ash'ari narrated, the Prophet said, there are 4 matters of Jahiliyyah that exist among my Ummah, and they will not give them up. They will not relinquish these 4 things. Boasting about one's forefathers, casting aspersions upon people's lineage, seeking rain by the stars, which is astrology, and wailing for the dead. And when you wail for the dead man is punished in the grave because of your bad behavior. The dead man in the grave is punished because of you're wailing over him, because of your bad behavior, your conduct. So Allah Ta'ala is the only one that can give the rain. The rain is a mercy. Haven't you heard of farmers in India? They borrow money from the bank to plant their crops. And the rain didn't come and they commit suicide. Haven't you heard about that? Farmers all over the world commit suicide because the rain didn't come. You are living in a country where there is proper rainfall, so you take the rain for granted. How can you take the rain for granted? Haven't you seen in Africa when the rain doesn't come, the kids have big bellies, and you see flies in their eyes and flies in their mouth? Do you know why the flies hound them? Because the flies know they're going to die soon. That's why the flies hound them. The rain didn't come, all the grass died, and when the grass died, the cows died, the sheep died, the goats died. The kids have big bellies and skinny legs, and they have flies in their mouth and their eyes. Haven't you seen that on your TV? I'm sure you have seen that on your TV. So you take the rain for granted. This is the reality. I'm painting for you a scenario, a picture, which is very, very gruesome. But this is the reality. That's what we do in this room. We preach practical Islam in this room. A type of Islam that you can relate to. Now, why did I bring up this scenario? Because you take the rain for granted. You are ungrateful to Allah. You take the rain for granted because you see the rain coming. I've just finished touring 12 African countries. In some African countries, people walk miles with buckets on their head to go to one well for water. You are able to turn on your tap if you live in Europe and America. I lived in Saudi Arabia in the middle of the desert in Riyadh, and there was no such a thing as a shortage of water because the Saudis, they turn the seawater into fresh water and pump it all over the country. Desalination plants. The Arabs are very proud. They're proud people. They don't want when you go into your bathroom to have a shower, there is no water. They turn the seawater into fresh water and pump it all over the country. It's called infrastructure. Infrastructure means to have good water supply for your citizens, good electricity and good roads. In some countries, there is no infrastructure. Why do you think people like to live in Europe and America? Why? Why do you think people hate Hijrah? The word Hijrah, when they hear the word Hijrah, they want to drop down and faint and die. Because they are coming from a country where there was no infrastructure. You have to walk miles with a bucket on your head to go to a well for water. Because the government didn't provide any infrastructure for the citizens. All they do is to steal the money and bank it in Switzerland and ignore the country. Every third world country they do that. The politicians steal the money. There is no such a thing as transparency and accountability. Transparency and accountability is only found in Europe and America, not in Africa and in Asia. People become politicians to steal. So you take Allah Ta'ala's rain for granted that is coming down from the sky. And Allah swears in the Quran, وَالْعَادِيَاتِ دَبْحًا. Allah swears by the horses. What did Allah say? إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لِرَبِّهِ لَكَنُودٌ. Verily man is ungrateful to his Lord. وَإِنَّهُ عَلَى ذَلِكَ لَشَهِيدٌ. And he himself is a witness to his own ungratefulness. Surah 100. I'm quoting to you from Surah 100. وَإِنَّهُ لِحُبِّ الْخَيْرِ لَشَدِيدٌ. And in the love of wealth, he is unscrupulous, atrocious, and vicious. And that is man. In the love of wealth, he is unscrupulous, atrocious, and vicious. He will do anything for money. He'll pimp even his own mother for money. That is man. Verily, man is ungrateful to his Lord, and he himself is a witness to his own ungratefulness. And in the love of wealth, he is heartless and cruel, atrocious, vicious, and unscrupulous. He is a Machiavellian. What is his motto? The end justifies the means. The end justifies the means. I want to get rich. I don't give a damn how I get rich, even if I have to pimp my own mother. That is man. وَإِنَّهُ لِهُبِّ الْخَيْرِ لَشَدِيدٌ. He is violent in his love of wealth. Have you heard of Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia? Putin, he planted bombs in the apartment of Moscow and killed hundreds of women and children. Blame it on the Chechen rebels. They call them rebels, we call them Mujahideen, because he wants to come to power. He bombed his own people to come to power. Putin of Russia. A man called Alexander Litvinenko wrote a book, Blowing Up Russia, to expose Putin. That he is an evil man, the shaitan. He killed his own people to come to power. The man ran away to the UK and he dumped the Russian values and became a Muslim. Alexander Litvinenko wrote a book to expose the shaitan, Vladimir Putin. He killed his own people to further his cause. The Muslims did not kill anybody in Moscow. It's Putin who planted the bombs because he wanted to come to power. He blamed the Chechens. They sent men to London to kill the man who wrote the book because he was going to write many more books to expose the shayateen. They poisoned him. How can you write a book to expose the devils and they invite you for a meal? You should smell a rat. They poisoned him with the meal. Polonium 210. If you write a book exposing human devils, the Russians. Then they invite you for a meal. You should smell a rat. You can't go for a meal. They're going to poison you. They poisoned him with polonium-210. Scotland Yard did a research and they found who poisoned him. They told Putin, send back those 2 men. They killed somebody on British soil. The Russians said, we are sorry, these 2 men, they are home and dry. We can extradite them back to the UK. Because we did not sign any treaty with the UK. We didn't sign any extradition treaty with the UK. So we can't extradite them back to the UK. That is man. Man is vicious. Why they wanted to invade Chechnya? For oil. Chechnya has oil just like Kuwait, very rich in oil. So they want the oil. So Allah told you in the Quran that man is heartless and cruel in his acquisition, in his desperation for wealth. What Allah Ta'ala said, وَتُحِبُّونَ الْمَالَ حُبًّا جَمًّا. Your love of wealth has no limits. And this life of the world is only amusement and play. Verily the home of the hereafter is the life indeed, the eternal life that will never end. If you but knew. The real life is not the dunya, because this is just play and amusement. وَمَا هَذِهِ الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا لَهْوٌ وَلَعِبٌ. Surah 57 verse 20. Now I can use Quran to explain Quran, because the Quran is a wonderful book. Ayah explains ayah. Surah 57 verse 20. Bring me that ayah because it's similar to this ayah. Allah said the Quran is mutashabi. Why? Because one ayah resembles the other ayah. The Quran did not contradict the Quran. The Quran did not checkmate the Quran. Okay, this is the ayah, Surah 57 verse 20. اعلموا أنما الحياة الدنيا لعب ولهو والزينة. Know that the life of this world is only play and amusement, pomp and mutual boasting among you. You brag and boast with each other, with wealth. It's called to keep up with the Joneses. If my neighbor buys a new car, I'm going to buy a new car as well. Keep up with the Joneses. Al-Hakim al-Takathur. Competition, rivalry. Al-Hakim al-Takathur hatta zurtum al-maqabir. Competition, rivalry between yourselves to pile up the dunya takes you away from your deen until you visit the grave, then you shall come to know. The cousin of the Prophet Ali said, when Allah revealed Surah Al-Hakim al-Takathur, nobody doubted the punishment of the grave. Nobody doubted the punishment of the grave after Allah revealed Surah Al-Hakim al-Takathur. Rivalry between yourselves takes you away from the deen. When you visit the grave, then you'll come to know. Why? Because there is punishment in the grave. Know that the life of this world is only play and amusement, pomp and mutual boasting among you, and rivalry in respect of wealth and the children. It is as the likeness of vegetation after rain thereof. The growth is pleasing to the tillers. Did you know that your brothers who marry sisters were very, very pretty? Brothers marry sisters who are very, very pretty, and they tell their women to take off the hijab to display their beauty, to make their friends jealous. Did you know that? How did I know? Because sisters complain to me. My husband wants me to display my beauty to his friends, to make them jealous. This one is called Bikhairat, the youth. So men like to show off. Why do you think he has a Mercedes Benz? I'm not criticizing the Benz. I had one in London and I had one in South Africa recently. And his car is perfect, but he wants a Ferrari car, a Lamborghini, a Maserati. To show off. That's how men are. They like to show off. They show off with money. They show off with pretty girls. That's why some people tell their wives to take off the hijab, to display their beauty, to make their friends jealous. This man is called Bighair youth. The Rasul said, The Bikhairat will never go to Jannah. La yadkhulu Jannah at the youth. The man with no jealousy cannot go to paradise. Is that what you want? You want to copy the kuffar? They do wife swapping. Is that what you want to do? You are too open-minded. You tell your wife to take off the hijab. You are too open-minded. Be careful, because people who are too open-minded, they indulge in open relationships. People who are too open-minded, they indulge in open relationships. Open relationship means you say to your wife, I will sleep with who I want and you sleep with who you want, and we remain as a couple, a married couple. That's called an open relationship. Darul Harb turns you into a low-life scum of the earth. People who live in Darul Harb, Muslims who live in Darul Harb. If you do not attend a regular halqa and learn your deen from a sheikh, your iman is going to disappear and you're going to become a low-life scum of the earth. You need to attend a regular halqa and learn Quran and Sunnah and be reminded about your duties to Allah. People who are too open-minded, they dabble in open relationships. Somebody PM me from London to say he's falling asleep. Why don't you drink coffee or Red Bull? So Allah Ta'ala told you that the life of this world is nothing but fun and amusement. In another ayah, Surah 3 verse 14, bring me the ayah, Surah 3 verse 14, Allah said, زُيِّنَ لِلنَّاسِ حُبَّ الشَّهَوَاتِ مِنَ النِّسَاءِ. Beautiful in the eyes of man. Beautified for men is the love of things they covet. Women, children, much of gold and silver, wealth, branded beautiful horses, cattle, and well-tilled land. This is the pleasure of the present world's life, but Allah has the excellent return, paradise with flowing rivers with Him. So Allah Ta'ala said, you love these things. What? Well-tilled land. Now, I was in Zimbabwe and I drove from one part of the country to the next part of the country. Allah said, what do you love? Well-tilled land. So this brings up to Zimbabwe. I was in Zimbabwe and I drove from one part of the country to the next part of the country. From the South African border to the Mozambican border. I saw a lot of land in Zimbabwe which was not used. So why did you take away the land from the white farmers? Do you follow? Why did you take away the land from the white farmers? Because when I was in Zimbabwe, I saw a lot of land which was not used. It's called idle land. Do you know why they take away the land from the white farmers? Because the land of the white farmers was well-tilled land. Well-tilled land. For them to go and prepare the land that has trees and grasses is very, very expensive. It's very, very expensive. For you to prepare the land for farming is very, very expensive. You need tractors. The reason why the blacks went for the land of the white farmers is because it was well-tilled land. They don't have to prepare the land, it's already prepared. So let's take the land of the white man. But when you took the land of the white man, the rain didn't come. Allah punish you. Not because the man is white, you can oppress the man and think Allah will turn a blind eye to your oppression. They suffered a famine when they took the land from the white man. Because Allah Ta'ala is not tyrannical, Allah is just. Now, even though the white man is oppressing the whole world at this moment, when the white man is in Africa, that doesn't mean you oppress the white man in Zimbabwe. We know the white man is oppressing the whole world right now. They killed Anwar Olak's son at age 16 and put his age up and said we killed him when he was 21 and he was a terror suspect. The white man did that. They killed Abdurrahman, the son of Anwar Olaki, with a drone, and he was only 16 years old. And then they put his age up to 21 because they don't want to be seen to be killing kids. The white man did that. Now we know that the white man is very, very tyrannical and oppressive. He killed his own people to further his cause, like what Vladimir Putin did in Moscow. But In Zimbabwe, when you took the land from the white man, it destroyed your economy. And people start to starve. And the reason why they took the land from the white man is because the land of the white man was what? Well-tilled land. And Allah said what attracts people is well-tilled land. It will be more appropriate for you to go and prepare your own land than to steal, not to steal, but to usurp the land of the white man. I said to Robert Mugabe, it would have been better for you to go and prepare your own land than to take the land of the white man. I'm sure I will never get another visa to go to Zimbabwe after this lecture. I'm sure they'll never give me another visa to go back to Zimbabwe after this lecture. Ayah 65. And when they embark on a ship, they invoke Allah, making their faith pure for Him alone. But when He brings them safely to dry land, behold, they give a share of their worship to others beside Allah. فَإِذَا رَكِبُوا فِي الْفُلْكِ دَعَوُا اللَّهَ مُخْلِصِينَ لَهُ الدِّينَ فَلَمَّا نَجَّاهُمْ إِلَى الْبَرِّ إِذَا هُمْ يُشْرِكُونَ. Look how evil man is. They were in the boat and the boat was about to capsize. And when the boat was about to capsize and they were about to die from drowning, they didn't call upon idols, Lat, Uzza, Hubal, Manat, because these are wooden stones. What did they do? Allah said they call upon me, Allah, and me alone. Mukhlisina lahuddin. They purify their dua and call upon me alone. And they promise me, when they go back to dry land, they will worship me alone. Allah said, when I answered their dua and they touched down on dry land, what did they do? They worship idols beside me, Allah. They broke their promise. They pull a stunt. This ayah is similar to another ayah. Surah 1767. This ayah is similar to another ayah, Surah 17, verse 67. So bring me the other ayah. Allah Ta'ala said, and when harm touches upon you upon the sea, when harm touches you upon the sea, those that you call upon vanish from you except Him, Allah. Only Allah was there for you. Only Allah was there for you when harm touches you upon the sea. The idols you call upon, they were not there for you. Only Allah was there for you. Everybody else abandoned you. But when He brings you safe to land, you turn away from Him, and man is ever ungrateful. Do you follow? Here I'm using one ayah to explain another ayah. So this incident, Allah didn't speak about it once in the Quran. Allah speaks about this incident on a few occasions in the Quran. I'm using one ayah to explain another ayah. And this is the beauty of the Quran. Allah used Quran to explain Quran. Quran did not checkmate Quran. Now, you go to universities to study psychiatry, sociology, psychology, and some of you even become shrinks. A shrink is a psychologist or a psychiatrist. And today they call a counselor a shrink, who provide therapy for people who are mentally disturbed and they have personality disorders. But how many of you realize that the whole Quran is the greatest book of psychology, the greatest book of sociology? Did you realize that? This ayah is telling you the mentality of man. The mentality of man is that when he is desperate, he uses you to get what he wants, and when he gets what he wants, he dumps you. Because they did that to Allah. When he was in the boat and the boat was about to capsize, he called upon Allah. When Allah answered his dua and he went back to dry land, he dumped Allah and went back to idols. That is the nature of man, very, very ungrateful. So expect in life people to use you for money and dump you. People use you for sex and dump you. People use you for your contacts because you know important people, and when they get what they want, they dump you. Expect that in life. People are going to use you for three things: for your money, for sex, and the third is your contacts. That is man. Allah said man is very ungrateful. They did it to Allah. They even did it to Allah. When I was on tour of South Africa, I was in a masjid in Cape Town, and I quoted this ayah. Somebody asked me after the speech if Allah knew that they were going to pull a stunt, why Allah answered their dua and saved them from drowning. That's what somebody asked me in the masjid. If Allah knew they were going to pull a stunt on him, broke their promise and worship idols, why didn't Allah allow the boat to capsize and let them all drown in the middle of the ocean? The answer to the question is that Allah gave them enough rope to hang themselves. The Kiram and Katibin recorded the incident. The angels, they're recording angels. And the Kiram and Katibin will play it back for them. The Kiram and Katibin did not use Kodak camera or Sony, Panasonic, Sharp, Toshiba to record this incident. They recorded this incident supernaturally, and it shall be played back to them. It will be said to them on Judgment Day, do you remember when you were in the ocean and you were going to drown? You prayed to Allah and you made a promise that if Allah save you from drowning, when you go back to dry land, you shall worship Allah alone. Allah heard your dua and Allah answered your dua and Allah saved you. Allah kept His side of the bargain, but you didn't keep your side of the bargain. When you went back to dry land, you broke your promise. And what did you do? You worship idols beside Allah. So they shall see their deeds, because Allah said in Surah 99, فَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَهُ وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ شَرًّا يَرَهُ. Whosoever did an atom's weight of good shall see it then. Surah 99, verses 7 to 8. And whosoever did an atom's weight of evil shall see it then. So your deeds will be paid back to you. You will be guilty as charged, and you shall be dumped into hellfire to abide forever, because Allah will never forgive the crime of shirk. Allah will forgive you if you have an affair. Allah will forgive you if you drunk alcohol. Allah will forgive you if you smoke weed. But if you worship a false deity beside Allah, like you worship Jesus, or you worship Muhammad, or you worship the Buddha, you are a pagan, a mushrik. Your situation is pitiful, appalling, and pathetic. Your destiny shall be in hellfire to abide forever. You are guilty as charged, and there is no hope for you. Because Allah said in Surah Nisa, verse 65, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَغْفِرْ أَن يُشْرَكَ بِهِ. Surah Nisa, verse 65, or Surah Nisa 48. إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَغْفِرْ أَن يُشْرَكَ بِهِ وَيَغْفِرْ مَا دُونَ ذَلِكَ. Surah Nisa, verse 48. Sorry, Surah Nisa 48. إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَغْفِرْ أَن يُشْرَكَ بِهِ وَيَغْفِرْ مَا دُونَ ذَلِكَ لِمَنْ يَشَاءُ. Allah doesn't forgive those who do shirk, paganism, idolatry. The word shirk is called in English paganism, idolatry. Paganism, idolatry, and polytheism. Three words are used to translate shirk: paganism, idolatry, and polytheism. Allah will never forgive shirk, which is polytheism, but Allah will forgive anything else on Judgment Day to whom He please. And Allah said, if you come to me with your sins reaching the sky, as long as you do not do shirk, I will grant you forgiveness and I do not mind. So that they become ingrate for that which we have given them, and that they take their enjoyment as a warning and a threat, but they will come to know. Have they not seen that we have made Mecca a secure sanctuary, while men are being snatched away from all around them? then do they believe in batil, polytheism, idols, false deities other than Allah, and deny, become ingrate for the graces of Allah which He bestowed upon them? Now, why did Allah make Mecca a sanctuary, a safe place? Because Allah was answering a dua of Abraham. We covered in this room the dua of Abraham. One of the dua of Abraham is Abraham begged Allah to make Mecca a safe place. Baqarah 126. So in Baqarah 126, Allah told you that Abraham prayed to Allah and begged Allah to make Mecca a safe place. So Mecca is called Balad Amin. Allah said, Watin wa Zaytun wa Tur Sinin wa hadha al-Balad al-Amin. Mecca is called the city of safety and security. Abraham said, وَإِذْ قَالَ إِبْرَاهِيمُ رَبِّ اجْعَلْ هَذَا بَلَدًا آمِنًا وَارْزُقْ أَهْلَهُ مِنَ الثَّمَرَاتِ مَنْ آمَنَ مِنْهُمْ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ قال ومن كفر فأمتعه قليلا ثم اضطره إلى عذاب النار وبئس المصير. And remember when Abraham said, My Lord, make this city, make Mecca a place of security and provide its people with fruits, such of them who believe in Allah on the last day. He, Allah, answered, As for him who disbelieves, I shall leave him in contentment for a while, then I shall compel him to the torment of the hellfire. And worse indeed is that destination. Bi'sal Masir. What an evil destination. What a hapless journey's end. So when Allah Ta'ala said to the Kafirs of Mecca, look how Mecca is safe. You are living in a safe city. And the other cities around you, there is no safety. People are killed. So how can you be so ungrateful to Allah? You are living in a safe city. Yet, you see that the other cities around you, people are being killed. Still you are ungrateful to Allah. You don't thank Allah for living in a safe city. And Allah said in Surah 106, لِإِلَافِ قُرَيْشِ إِلَافِهِمْ رِحْلَةَ الشِّتَاءِ وَالصَّيْفِ فَلْيَعْبُدُوا رَبَّ هَذَا الْبَيْتِ الَّذِي أَطْعَمَهُم مِّن جُوعٍ وَآمَنَهُم مِّن خَوْفٍ. Allah said, by the tradition of Quraysh, you went to Yemen in the winter and you went to Syria in the summertime. You had two journeys, Shita and Saif. Shita is winter, Saif is summer. Where did you go in Shita in the winter? To Yemen. Where did you go in the summertime? To Sham, to Syria. And your caravans were protected because you came from Mecca. So even though I gave you security, still you are ungrateful to me. The most important thing is security. If you have a security company in any country where there is crime, you make a lot of money. To have a security firm to provide security, you make a lot of money. Because everybody wants to be secure. That's why security is a big business, a multi-billion-dollar business. Allah told the Kafirs of Mecca, I provide you with security and I give you food in your bellies. Yet you worship Lat, Uzza, Hubal, Manat and all the other idols instead of worshipping me, Allah. How ungrateful can you be? And who does more wrong than he who invents a lie against Allah or denies the truth that Muhammad has brought, the Quran, the Sunnah, when it comes to him? Is there not a dwelling in hell for disbelievers in the oneness of Allah and the messenger, his messenger Muhammad? The worst con artist is the man who cons you in regards to religion. The worst con artist is not the man who comes to you with a fake $100 bill. If a man comes into your shop with a fake $100 bill and they come at night time when you can hardly see, it's painful because he rips you off. The worst kind of artist is not the man who comes into your shop with a fake $100 bill, or he gave you a bounce check. The worst kind of artist is the man who cons you about Allah and said Jesus is God. Because Allah said the worst con artist and the worst liar is the man who lies against Allah. That is the worst liar. وَمَنْ أَظْلَمَ مِمَّنْ افْتَرَى عَلَى اللَّهِ كَذِبٍ. Who can be eviler than the man who lies against Allah? Surah 61 verse 7. So the worst kind of artist is a man who cons you about religion and calls you to be in hellfire, telling you Trinity, God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit. So the worst kind of artists are those who con you in regards to religion and fed you with a false religion. When he fed you with a false religion, he puts you hereafter in jeopardy. As for those who strive hard in our cause, we will surely guide them to our paths, Allah's deen. And verily Allah is with the doers of good, the muhsinun. And those who strive hard in our cause. Striving means to do what is fard and to abstain from what is haram. That is the meaning of striving. To do what is fard and to abstain from the haram. And Allah Ta'ala will never allow your striving to go to waste. He shall reward you handsomely for your striving. Brothers and sisters in Islam, that's the tafsir of Surah Al-Ankabut. Ayah 69 is the last ayah. We have covered the surah in its entirety. I'll pause and take 5 questions. Tomorrow we'll do another surah. Assalamu alaikum. Shaykh, recently you mentioned that you can't give excuse of ignorance to a person regarding those things known of Islam by necessity. However, there are many so-called Muslims today who are ignorant even about those things that are known of Islam by necessity. Under these circumstances, if they commit act of apostasy or major kufr or shirk, can you make takfir on them first, or do you educate them on the things known of Islam by necessity? If a person says Allah is everywhere, you can't make takfir on him because he is jahil. You have to educate him first, because he is coming from India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, where the Maulanas say Allah is everywhere. If a person says Allah is everywhere, don't make takfir, educate him first, because maybe he's coming from India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, where he was taught by the Maulanas there that Allah is everywhere. So you have to give him the hujjah before you make takfir, and the hujjah is Quran and Sunnah. Surah 20 verse 5, Ar-Rahman al-Arsh istawa. So you give the excuse of ignorance for the person who says Allah is everywhere because he is jahil and his environment has corrupted him. And this aspect of Tawheed wasn't explained to him. But if a person is praying to the inhabitants of the graves, like the grave of Abdul Qadir Jilani or even the grave of Muhammad, you have to make takfir even before you explain to him, because the hujjah has already been established. What's the hujjah? Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in. You alone we worship and you alone we ask for help. So the hujjah has already been established. What's the hujjah? La ilaha illallah. Nothing deserves to be worshipped except Allah. Nothing deserves to be worshipped except Allah. So because the hujjah has already been established inside of the shahada, nothing deserves to be worshipped except Allah, you are not allowed to give him the excuse of ignorance for praying to the inhabitants of the graves. You will say the man doesn't know what is the meaning of La ilaha illallah. That's why he's a kafir. Anybody who doesn't know the meaning of La ilaha illallah is a kafir. Because your shahada has 7 conditions, and the very first condition of shahada is knowledge of what the shahada means. That's why the grave worshipper is a kafir, because he doesn't know the meaning of La ilaha illallah. Nothing deserves to be worshipped except Allah. Your shahada has 7 conditions. One of the conditions of shahada is what? Knowledge of what the shahada means. There is no excuse of ignorance for the person who dabbles in the shirk of ibadah, the shirk of worship. Allah didn't give the Christians the excuse of ignorance when they worship Jesus. So what makes you think we will give you the excuse of ignorance for worshipping Muhammad? Allah said in Surah Ma'idah verse 72, لَقَدْ كَفَرَ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا إِنَّ اللَّهَ وَالْمَسِيحُ ابْنُ مَرْيَمَ. Verily they are kafirs, disbelievers, who claim Jesus the son of Mary is Allah. The excuse of ignorance wasn't given to Christians when they worship Jesus beside Allah. Allah didn't give them the excuse of ignorance. Allah made takfir on them. Also, the excuse of ignorance wasn't given to the Christians when they gathered at a council called the Council of Nicaea and introduced Trinity paganism into the church. Surah Ma'idah verse 73, Allah said, لَقَدْ كَفَرَ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا إِنَّ اللَّهَ ثَلَثُ ثَلَاثَةٍ. Verily they are kuffar, they are infidels who claim Jesus the son of Mary is Allah. Verily they are kuffar who claim that Allah is a third of 3 deities in the Trinity. ثَالِثُ ثَلَاثَةٍ. They are kuffar who claim Allah is a third of 3 deities in the Trinity. Allah didn't give the Christians the excuse of ignorance. Allah made takfir on them. Therefore you are not allowed to give the excuse of ignorance to a goofy Sufi or a Barelwi or a Shiite. If you give them the excuse of ignorance, you are going against the Holy Quran. Ma'idah 72 and Ma'idah 73. There are sisters who encourage other sisters to disobey their parents to the point where they are controlling, going against their parents, and so that their parents can be with them and commit all kinds of haram, clubbing, zina, drugs, khamr, and say if their parents allow them to do what they want, then that's good for her. How should I advise with the situation to this sister, if that person is my sister? There is no obedience to the creation. Just a minute. There is no obedience to the creation when you are disobeying the Creator. There is no obedience to the creation when you are disobeying the Creator. There is no obedience to the created thing when you are disobeying the Creator of things. Therefore, you are supposed to obey your parents if they tell you to do what is halal. It is incumbent upon you to obey your parents when they instruct you to do that which is halal. But if they tell you to do that which is haram, then you don't obey them, because there is no obedience to the creation when you are disobeying the Creator. I hope that is clear. This scenario is a typical example of a person living in Dar Harb, and Dar Harb turned him into low-life scums of the earth. That is the scenario that you have just painted for me. Because clubbing, zina, drugs, khamr, all of this are symptoms of those who live in Dar Harb, the land of the enemy. And the land of the enemy, Dar Harb, I'll turn them into low-life scums of the earth. My suggestion to you is to get married to a pious husband, and he will sort out your deen for you, because marriage is half your deen. Surah Al-Ankabut verse 8, Allah said, "And we have enjoined on man to be good and dutiful to his parents. But if they strive to make you join with me in worship anything as a partner of which you have no knowledge, then do not obey them." So Surah 29 verse 8 tells you that you obey your parents if they tell you to do what is halal. You don't obey them if they tell you to do what is haram. You are not allowed to have friends who dabble in zina, khamr, and clubbing. These friends are evil friends. You have to make bara from them, because on Judgment Day you will come, and what will you say? Ya waylata laytani lam attakhid fulan khalila. Woe be unto me, I wish I did not choose that person for a friend. Surah 25 verse 28. Woe be unto me, I wish I didn't choose that person as a friend. So you are living in Dar Harb and you have evil friends, and these friends are leading you to the hellfire like a lamb to the slaughter. As a Muslim, you are not allowed to dabble in these things that you described to me: zina, khamr, smoking weed, drinking alcohol, going to nightclubs. Muslims don't go to nightclubs. So you live in Dar Harb and you have become a low-life scum of the earth, dabbling in these things. You need to get married to a pious brother who can sort out your deen. And if you are living in a land and you have become a shaitan because of the land, why don't you make hijrah? The man who killed 100 people, he even killed a sheikh. Didn't he go to another sheikh and say, "Can I make tawbah?" He said, "Yes, but you need to make hijrah. Leave your land and go to another land. Leave your land to go to another land, because the land you are living in has corrupted you. You need to make hijrah in order for your tawbah to be accepted." So when you are living in a country and it turns you into a low-life scum of the earth like what you have just described to me, you need to make hijrah, because the environment has corrupted you. And if you die in that state, your situation will be pitiful, appalling, and pathetic. Maybe you don't even pray. Next question, please. Assalamu alaikum, Shaykh. Where, in your opinion, are good places to make hijrah to as of today? The best place to go, if you want to go to the battlefield and gain Allah's pleasure and be in the bellies of green birds, go to places like Yemen and Afghanistan. If you want to be in the bellies of green birds, can't you see the Mujahideen took over half of Mali? Go there. Can't you see they took over 10% of Yemen? Go there to be in the bellies of green birds. Some of you are so sinful, the only way you can go to paradise is for you to die on the battlefield. And Allah said, وَتِلْكَ الْأَيَّامِ نُدَاوِلُهَا. The sweetness of victory and the bitterness of defeat, we give it to men in turns. وَتِلْكَ الْأَيَّامِ نُدَاوِلُهَا بَيْنَ النَّاسِ. Now, why does Allah give you defeat and victory in turns? Allah said, I give it to you in turns so that some of you can become shuhada. Surah 3, 140. Surah 3, 140. وَتِلْكَ الْأَيَّامِ نُدَاوِلْهَا بَيْنَ النَّاسِ وَلِيَعْلَمَ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَيَتَّخِذَ مِنْكُمْ شُهَدَاءَ وَاللَّهُ لَا يُحِبُّ الظَّالِمِينَ. As for the sweetness of victory and the bitterness of defeat, we give it to you in turns. One day you win, the next day they win. Allah said, I did that so that I will test you to see who are the sincere believers from the fake believers, and to turn some of you into shuhada, martyrs. Some of you are so sinful, the only way you can go to paradise is to die on the battlefield. You drink alcohol, you cheat on your wives, you take drugs, you are so sinful. The only way for you to go to the only way for you to go to paradise is to die on the battlefield. So Allah said, I give you victory and defeat in turns, nudawiluha, to test to see who is a real believer and to make some of you become shuhada, to turn you into martyrs. Because some of you are so sinful, your only hope of going to paradise is to die on the battlefield. When the armies go out to conquer a land, how long do they have to give the leaders of that land dawah until they attack? The sunnah is 3 days. The sunnah is 3 days. But when the Prophet was marching to Khaybar, he told Ali, take the flag and give them the dawah, and then they attack the same day. Giving dawah to a land before you attack is not compulsory, it is optional. Because everybody hears about Islam. When the Prophet attacked Banu Mustalik, he didn't give them no dawah. So don't think it's compulsory to give dawah before you attack. It's not compulsory. The Prophet attacked Banu Mustalik and defeated them, and he didn't give them any dawah. So to give dawah to the kuffar before you launch an attack, it is optional, it is not compulsory, and it's not a condition for you to launch an attack. Islamic fiqh, the Islamic jurisprudence prove otherwise. It's not a condition to launch an attack because the Prophet attacked Banu Mustalik and he didn't give them any dawah before he launched his attack. This is the last question. My wife seen a dream about birds with a neck of a camel. She point on it, and then she see a big bird and roasted. She ate it like she never tasted. Birds in a dream is a good dream, and there's no doubt about that. The interpretation of the dream is that your livelihood will be improved. Your livelihood will be improved. She ate something she has never tasted. It means that maybe you will be introduced to new food that you have never had before, because you will change your environment and live in a new environment. That was the last question. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilaik.